We're getting ready to start a new sermon series here at the Crossing called Life at a Funeral. And the idea for the series was really kind of born out of my experience in Macomb. You see, before I became the campus pastor, my experience with funerals was relatively limited. A couple grandparents and a couple people I was loosely affiliated with. But once I became the campus pastor in Macomb, I had to do a lot of funerals. And what was more amazing than anything was just the stark difference between funerals where somebody who passed away had a relationship with Jesus Christ, and then funerals where the person who passed away didn't leave much evidence of a relationship with Jesus. Everything's different. The tears are different, the sorrows, the emotions. Being in a place where there's not hope or peace. And while I know that that's exactly the spot Jesus would want me to be in, and that if he were here, that's exactly where he would be, it's really draining. It's hard. It takes it out of you to be in a spot where people don't have hope and you don't have really good answers to any of the questions that they're asking. And even worse is sometimes you just don't want to have to answer the questions that they ask. You see, every single one of us, we're going to spend a lot of time at funerals, cemeteries, funeral homes, because the older we get, the more funerals we're going to go to. You see, when we're young, it is just kind of grandparents. Then as we get older, it becomes parents and aunts and uncles. But eventually it becomes brothers and sisters and friends. All of us are going to have to go through this experience of death, whether it be somebody else's or our own. We all know that there's going to be death at a funeral. What I want to know is there life?
This is a place where I feel at home.
It's a real question I want you to consider. We do all know that there's going to be death at a funeral. Just about everyone that I'm talking to of all of our locations right now has experienced that. The deep feeling of what it's like to experience death at a funeral. But like Clayton asked in the video, is there life? Is there life at a funeral? And you know, for the next few weeks, that's what we're going to explore. This is not going to be a series that's going to depress you. This is going to be a series that's going to encourage you, but you need to look at something that other people see in a completely different way. And you're going to have to look at it and see it God's way and the way that the child of God needs to see it. I want to welcome all of you that are joining from all of our locations, from Macomb and Kirksville, from 929, Hannibal and Pittsfield. I'm so glad that you're here. And this is just such critical stuff to understand. And if we can get this in our hearts, it's going to change us, and it's going to become more and more valuable as the years go by. Because what Clayton said is true. You know, when you're young, you don't think a lot about this. But as you get older, you think about it an awful lot more because it happens with such a greater frequency. I think I could have called this sermon of pigs and sheep, because we're going to spend our time talking about pigs and sheep. And if you want to know where the secret of abundant life is, it's in that knowledge. And I know that some of you right now are going, what? But I think that you're going to find something great in here, okay? And I want to talk about pigs first. I have a little bit of experience with pigs. I was in the country for 11 years in a country church, and there were a lot of people who raised hogs in the country. Now, when I was a little child, I didn't know very much about hogs or pigs. I did know one thing. Do you know what I knew? This little piggy went to market. This little piggy went home. This little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy had none. And this little piggy cried wee, wee, wee all the way home. How many of you knew that when you were a kid? Yeah, most of us knew that about piggies, about pigs, okay? Guess what I found out? I found out a horrible truth when I grew up. 4 of those things are lies. 4 of those are lies. Because all you have to do is go, this little piggy went to market, end of story. It's true, okay? If you have little children in here, they should have been in the children's ministry. You'll have to close your ears, okay? Because they're gonna need therapy after this is over, right? I was driving down the road about a week ago, and like a lot of you, I'm driving down the road, and there's one of those semi-trailers that's kind of an open semi-trailer, lots of holes in the side. And before you ever see that trailer, you smell that trailer. That's right. And it was in front of me. It's kind of a little ways in front of me. And like you, that's when you're glad you have some horsepower in your car, if you have any horsepower, because you want to get around that semi-trailer. You want to put yourself in front of that smell instead of behind that smell. And you might be thinking when you're behind that semi-trailer trying to get around it that it's making you have a bad day. But I guarantee you, as you pass the semi-trailer and you see those little snouts going out those little holes, you know, trying to get some air, they're going to have a whole lot worse day than you're going to have. Because that day is going to end very abruptly for all the hogs in that semi-trailer, right? And this is what I started to think about. For a lot of people, that's how they view life. A lot of people view life like a pig. Or maybe not like a pig. Maybe they don't understand that they're that. Maybe a pig doesn't understand it's a pig. I don't know. But it's like that, isn't it? It's like, you know, you start out life and you have this experience in life. You're raised up and you have parents, and then you go out on your own, and you kind of have this very short period of time that you realize when you get a little older how fast that time goes by, and it actually speeds up the older you get. And then eventually, someone's taking you to market. You know what I mean? Eventually, it's over. Life is over. And I'm going, is that the meaning of life? Is the meaning of life virtually the same as what you see in that semi-trailer going down the road? Is that the way it is for us humans? Maybe we're not sold at the market, but we kind of go up the river, if you know what I mean. Because we start out, maybe we're hopeful and we're positive, but eventually it all ends up in the same place, and it ends up in the same place for all of us. And a lot of people look at life that way. They look at life and they see it like a pig. Do it, you know, get what you can what you get, put a lid on it and sit on it. A lot of pigs end up in a can. Like Spam, right? And you may not end up in a can, but you may end up in a box or a jar. And I want you to think, is that what you see? Is that all you see? Because listen, if that's all you see, then you're not experiencing abundant life. I want us to look at John chapter 10, verse 10, second part of the verse. This is what Jesus says in John 10:10b. John 10:10b says this: I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Some of your translations may say that I have come that they have life and that more abundantly. Jesus Christ came to give us an abundant life and a full life, but a lot of us are looking at life and we're seeing something completely different than what Jesus has promised. Maybe we're living life with a certain set of rules that might reflect that we don't see life the way that Jesus says it or teaches it. Is that a lie? When Jesus said that, is that not true? Does that fly in the face of reality? Well, see, Jesus doesn't see you that way. He doesn't see you like a pig going to market. He sees you as a different animal. He sees you as sheep. Because if you look at John 10, from verses 1 through 17, and right smack dab in the middle of that is this 10:10b, where it says, I have come that you might have life, and that to the full. When Jesus says that, he's saying it in the context of being a good shepherd to sheep. He's talking all about us as an illustration, and that illustration he uses is a sheep, and what sheep are like. So why would sheep have abundant life and pigs not have abundant life? Well, why is that? And why would you want to be a sheep instead of a pig? Well, let's just look at the facts, okay? Let's look at the facts. And you're going to see why this relates to life at a funeral. Just hang on with me. Fact number 1, sheep aren't very smart. And so at first, it might hit you wrong to be compared to a sheep. I really don't know if I like being compared to a sheep because they're not very smart. And you know, they're not very good with their surroundings or good with whatever they've been given. I mean, think about it. A sheep can't protect itself. What does a sheep have to protect itself? I mean, can it blend into its surroundings? I mean, like ninja sheep or stealth sheep? Like, I can get up close to this, but they're white, for goodness sake. They stick out everywhere. You can't hide. You can't be a sheep and hide. How about using their real long legs and run away from danger? Can they do that? No, they got real short legs and they don't run fast at all. Wow. How about using their terrible claws? Well, they don't have claws. They got cute little hooves. How about using their razor-sharp teeth to attack their prey? Oh, they don't have that either. Wow, it is a real bummer to be a sheep. Because if you're a sheep, you're like a sitting duck. I mean, you're at everything else's mercy. You know, if you're a pig, you can be downright dangerous. How many of you have seen those wild pig shows on TV? Yeah, they're like dangerous. I mean, you don't want to be around one of those things because they can attack you and take you out, right? And they're super smart, and they do a lot of things very, very smart. I mean, they know if there's humans around, they can smell real long distances, not smell, but smell others from a real long distances. They can protect themselves very well. They do use their surroundings. They do a lot of that stuff, but not sheep. They can't protect themselves. They're easy prey. You know what else sheep do? They get lost. They get lost, and they don't plan on it. I mean, they're not even smart enough to intend to get lost. They're not going, I'm going to see how far away I can get from all the other sheep, or how far away can I get from the shepherd. No, they're not smart enough to think that way. And the reason is because they keep their head down all the time. And if there's grass there, and then there's grass another foot in front of them, guess what they do? They just go to the grass that's a foot in front of them. And if there's grass a foot in front of that, they just go there. And they just keep following their appetite without looking at what's going on around them until when they finally figure it out, they look around and there's no other sheep around them. They don't intend to wander off, they just do. Because they're not smart enough to realize that they can wander off. They never look up. They're always looking down. And they are terrible. They're followers, and they're terrible at it. When I say followers, they'll follow anything. You can, if you're a shepherd, you can put your staff up and force the first or the second sheep to jump over your staff. And then you can take the staff away. Guess what the next sheep will do? He'll jump over a staff that isn't there just because the one in front of him did. And then the one behind him will do the same thing again. They'll continually imitate the sheep that's in front of them, even if there's nothing to jump over. That's real intelligent, isn't it? You think that sheep are so cuddly and cute, and they are. I get that. But only if you like wash them and blow dry them, okay? Because if you've ever been around sheep, they're not even smart enough to keep themselves clean. Did you know that? They smell really bad. They don't even keep themselves clean. And they are afraid of everything. I mean, you can do like anything, and it'll just scare them to death. You can scare sheep so easy. You know, in Psalm 23, it says, you know, He leads me beside still waters. Do you know why? Because sheep are scared of water that isn't still. They're afraid of everything. So when you first look at the whole idea of sheep, you might wish you were a pig. You might say, I would rather be a pig because at least pigs are intelligent and they can provide for themselves, they can protect themselves, they can blend into their surroundings, they can actually fight back or attack, they can fend for their own food, they can do all that kind of stuff on their own. I'd rather be a pig than a sheep, but I think you'd be wrong. I think we need to concentrate on being a sheep instead of a pig. Fact number 2. If fact number 1 is sheep aren't very smart, fact number 2 is sheep need a good shepherd. Because if the sheep have a good shepherd, they have everything they need. If sheep have a good shepherd, they have everything that they need. And that's why in John 10, and Jesus says, I've come that they might have life and have it to the full. He says it all in the context of being a shepherd with sheep. See, I think that we misdefine what abundant life is. We don't even understand. We're not even smart enough. We're sheep. We don't even understand what it means to have a full life. We think that have a full life means you do it all for yourself, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, you provide for yourself, you do everything for yourself. We're living like pigs. We want to call ourselves sheep, but we're living like pigs. See, a sheep doesn't do that. He provides, he's being provided for by a shepherd. And the way that the shepherd provides for the sheep is the way we understand abundant life. So you're going to see that you and I, we misdefine what abundant life is, but Jesus defines it here for us. Let me give you 5 reasons why being a sheep under the care of a shepherd, the good shepherd, Jesus Christ, is abundant life. So when you look at your life, and I look at my life, and we look down the road toward our future, and we realize that our future has that day in front of us, that funeral day in front of us, and the people that we love and care for and have invested our hearts in all around us also have that day. Instead of getting discouraged and thinking like a pig and going, what's the point of all this? It's like some sick, cynical joke, my life. Instead of looking at it like that, understand it, not just in the light of being a sheep, but being a sheep under the care of the good shepherd. And then I think we'll understand really what abundant life is, all the way up until that moment and past it. Sheep need a good shepherd. This is what the good shepherd does. Number 1, he protects his sheep. He protects them. And there are 2 kinds of things or predators that the shepherd protects the sheep from. He protects the sheep from thieves, people who would come in and steal the sheep away because they're easily stolen. And he also protects the sheep from like animal predators, like wolves, like wild animals. Look at what Jesus says in the first part, John 10:10a, and then we're going to go down to verse 12. In 10:10a, he says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. You see that? And in verse 12, it says, the hired hand is not the shepherd who owns the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. So what Jesus is saying is that there are going to be thieves in this world that are going to try to pull us away from the good shepherd, and there are going to be wolves in this world that try to devour us, that try to destroy us and take away our life and our relationship with our good shepherd. And he knows that. And he doesn't say that's your responsibility. He's saying that's my responsibility. So one of the reasons that my life is an abundant life and a life full of joy and fullness is because I have a shepherd who watches over me, who doesn't let the thief come in and steal me away, who doesn't let the wolf come in and devour me. And as long as I'm there with my shepherd, I'm going to be all right. You know, some of us are trying to do this thing we call life all on our own. We're trying to do it all by ourselves, and we don't have what it takes to do that, because this world is full of thieves and this world is full of wolves, and they will rob you of the joy in your life, and they'll rob you of life itself. You know that I'm telling you the truth. And Jesus, the good shepherd, said, that's my job. That's my job. I am here to protect you from the thieves, and I'm here to protect you from the wolves. Second thing about the Good Shepherd, this is why my life is abundant. This is why my life is a full life. It's because I have a Good Shepherd, and he doesn't just protect me as the sheep, he keeps me from wandering. He keeps me from wandering. And you know, even when I do wander, he comes after me. Isn't that awesome to know that? It's not like I want to wander, because when you wander, bad things can happen. And you don't even realize that they're happening. You know, you can put yourself in some pretty bad situations. You've been in some bad situations, and you wonder how you got there, and you said something like this, I didn't plan for this to happen. Boy, I didn't see this one coming. And it just snuck up on you, and got you. You wandered. And it wasn't that Jesus wanted you to wander. You know how we are. We're like that sheep. We're just got our heads down, and it's just like one little tuft of grass after another tuft of grass, and before long, without really intending to wander off, we did. The beautiful thing is, even when we wander, the Good Shepherd comes after us. You remember the story Jesus told about the shepherd that had 100 sheep in his flock? Do you remember that? And it said that one sheep did what? It wandered off. And what did the Good Shepherd do? He left the 99 and he went and found that one. And he brought that one back into the fold. That's our Good Shepherd. That's what he does. See, the Good Shepherd protects the sheep from all those kinds of predators, and the Good Shepherd keeps the sheep from wandering and goes after them when they do. Here's a third thing that the Good Shepherd does. He provides for his sheep. He provides. In Psalm 23, a familiar psalm, in verse 2, listen to what he says. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside quiet waters. And you know what it says next. He restores my soul. Well, that happens, doesn't it, when you're well-fed and well-rested? Sure. You feel restored when you're well-fed and you're well-rested, because he's leading you to green pastures and beside quiet waters. Quiet waters, remember how important that is, because sheep are frightened at troubled waters. And he leads us to quiet waters. He knows what we need, and then he leads us to the water and to the pasture. And as a matter of fact, Jesus knows what you need before you even ask him. Did you know that? And that's the way it is with a shepherd and a sheep. Sheep didn't have to go up and say, hey, Good Shepherd, I need some water here. Why? Because the shepherd already knows that. He already knows that. And sheep don't have to ask the shepherd, nor would a shepherd ever expect a sheep to do a thing like that. He just knows it. And our Good Shepherd knows what we need. And you remember what he said in the Sermon on the Mount? He said this. He said, consider the birds of the air. Remember that? Consider the lilies of the field. When he talked about the birds of the air, it says they don't toil or spin, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. How much more will he do for you? Oh, you have little faith. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Well, why? It's beautiful because that's what the Good Shepherd does. Good Shepherd provides for his sheep. And he knows what you need before you ask him. What's the fourth thing? This is good. This feels good to me. You see, I don't have to be afraid of what's in front of me because I know who's with me. Are you getting that? The Good Shepherd, he protects me from all those things that are predatory out there. He keeps me from wandering, and if I happen to wander, he'll go after me. And the Good Shepherd provides for me, provides for his sheep the things I need. Not everything I want, but definitely what I need. The Good Shepherd also provides boundaries for his sheep. And he provides those boundaries to keep them safe and to keep them secure. Look at what he says in John 10, verse 9. He says, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and fine pasture. He's talking about the gate of the sheep. Earlier in that same chapter in John, he talks about, I'm the gate of the sheep. So he is the boundary. He provides the boundary. And those boundaries are critically important. You see, they actually enhance abundant life. They don't hinder abundant life. See, it doesn't work that way with pigs. How many of you have ever tried to herd a pig? Anybody ever try to do that? That's why they make these things called herders and hot shots. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you've not ever lived on the farm or know what the farm is all about, this would probably freak you out. Because hogs just don't cooperate. And if you've got a bad temper, you're going to have a really bad day if you're trying to work with hogs. Because you have to use these metal herders. Because if you want them to go one place, they want to go 364 degrees in any other direction but that. I guarantee you. And you have to use pain to engage their brain. That's why they have these things called hot shots. I know PETA would probably like to outlaw them. But it's basically an electric shock probe. Bam! Okay, I'm going. I don't want to go. Because they are all about their own will. And they are all about their own mind. And they want to do everything themselves. It's different with a sheep. I don't know. It's awesome going to Israel and you watch shepherds and sheep. It's totally different. There aren't any fences anywhere. And it's like the shepherd's walking and the sheep all follow him. They just do. He can even walk behind them and talk to them, and they'll just keep going. Because as long as they're with the shepherd, they're okay. See, the good shepherd, he does that intentionally. He provides these boundaries for his sheep because he wants to keep them safe and he wants to keep them secure. It actually enhances our abundant life. You know, sometimes in our Christian life, we're going, well, we're always looking for license. You know, we're always looking for some excuse of why we can do something or how far can we push the boundary so that we can get our own way. When what God is saying to us is, listen, if you want to have life to the full, just do what I tell you. Because this is going to make your life a whole lot happier. It's going to make it joyful. It's going to fill your life up with good things. Every time you try to get outside the boundaries, every time you try to trespass, it takes you and puts you in a bad place. In Psalm 23, verse 3, listen to what it says. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He guides me. And he does it for his name's sake. And I think that's really interesting because sometimes we completely misunderstand that. I've actually had people say that they did this sinful thing in their life and God really worked through it. I mean, it was actually God did a great, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. See, what you're doing is you're misunderstanding God. And you've heard me say this many times before. The path of righteousness never goes through fields of sin. Remember that? The paths of righteousness never, ever go through fields of sin. And what you're confusing is this. You're confusing God's redemptive work with his blessing. No matter how bad you goof up your life, God can still redeem you. He can still find you. As far as you wander off and hurt yourself, he's still a good enough shepherd to bring you back. But do not misunderstand that for the pathway of God's blessing. God never intended for that. And if you would have stayed inside the boundaries, it would have been a lot better for you and his name's sake. Fifth one. The good shepherd loves his sheep. He loves them. He loves us. What are we learning? Good shepherd protects his sheep from predators. He keeps the sheep from wandering, and when they do, he goes after them. Good shepherd provides for his sheep. He knows what they need. He leads them to it. Good shepherd provides boundaries for his sheep to keep them safe and secure. And the good shepherd just flat loves his sheep. And he's known. He's known by his sheep, and he's trusted by his sheep. I want us to look at John 10, 3 and 4, and then we're going to skip to verse 14. In verse 3 it says, the watchman opens the gate for him, And the sheep, listen, the sheep listen to his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. And when he has brought out all of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. That's so beautiful. Look at verse 14. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Now that's the one I really want to key in on, is what he said last. Because if you want to know, not just that the shepherd, the good shepherd, loves his sheep, if you want to know how much he loves the sheep, what you're going to see 5 times in 17 verses, 5 times, he's going to say the same thing over and over. Let's just start out with the 11th verse. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Look at verse 15. I lay down. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Look at verses 17 and 18. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down and the authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. That's how we know we have a good shepherd, because he loves his sheep enough to die for them. He's not a hired hand. See, if you go back to those first 4, you see the motivation of all of that. Why does he protect his sheep even if it kills him? Because he loves his sheep. Why does he keep them from wandering and risk his own life to go after them if they do wander away? It's because he loves them. Why does he provide for his sheep and knows what they need and leads them to water and pastures? Because he loves them. Why does he provide these boundaries to keep his sheep safe and secure? It's because he loves them. Good shepherd loves his sheep. You know, I've quoted a couple of times now from Psalm 23. Do you know that psalm? I say it at every funeral I do. And I say it from the King James Version because that's how I memorized it. And that's how most people understand. Do you want to say it with me? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Abundant life. Abundant life isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by who you're with. Abundant life isn't understood by doing it all on your own. It's by recognizing you can't do any of it without him. And that's how we understand that we have a good shepherd. Because in the end, this is what we know we really need. When I was a kid at home, every time we had our family come in for Thanksgiving or Christmas, my dad would pull out the old 8mm Bell & Howell projector. You know, this is back in the 8mm silent movies, so home movies. You know, that's how old I am. And that thing would go tick, 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 tick. I don't know how many of you ever remember that, but I certainly do. And they would have old films that we used to do on a Brownie wind-up camera. If you really want to know, I mean, how old I am and how old some of the people are around you are. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Look at all those hands, see? I love old people. Anyway, that's me now. Anyway, we would be watching this, and it was always interesting to watch all of the elderly people in my family at that time, because this is what, since there was no sound, this is what they would do. They're dead. They're dead. He's dead. Remember him? Yeah, he's dead. That guy's dead. And they'd pull out that film, and it would be it would be an obituary of just all the people that were dead. You know? It's crazy. Well, you know, this last weekend, I was at a family reunion. And we were talking about who was there and who wasn't. And my daughter Abby was with me. And guess what she caught me doing? Well, so-and-so's not here. Well, they're dead. And they're dead. And I was doing it. I was doing it myself. And I'm going, oh no, guess what that means? I'm getting closer to being one of the statistics. It's kind of scary, right? Seeing those old 8mm films and being reminded of that in my own family reunion. But in my mind, I can see an old 8mm film, and I'm thankful it's silent. And I see Jesus dying on a cross for me. And I can look at that film and I can go, he's dead. Oh, but not anymore. Not anymore. Because he's my good shepherd. And he rose from the dead, and he fought death, and he beat death down. And he took the fear of death away from me so that I don't have to think about death at a funeral, because I am found in life, even at a funeral. So, here's what I'm asking you. Sheep or pig? Which do you want to be? We're moving to a time of decision.